because for me, sometimes people don't underachieve because they're lazy. Sometimes people underachieve because they magnify what they've already achieved.
Oh, yes, Bishop!
The concept of getting by simply means doing enough in a task to have the task done. You didn't do your best, but you didn't do your worst.
Yes.
You did something with enough proficiency that it got the job done. You did enough to get by.
That's good.
Even when others don't know, I barely did enough because my good is most people's best. It just is. You define getting by, and here's the deal. You went from defining getting by to challenging me to admit it and adjust.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to another edition of The Life of Books. We are thrilled to be here with you. A Woman's Voice Matters presents our first Life of Books for 2023. A Woman's Voice Matters is an entity that has been uplifting, educating, and empowering women since 2016. We are teetering on our 7-year anniversary. Woo-woo! We are so thrilled to continue this journey. We are heading into what we believe are the best days of our lives, and we are encouraging and empowering women on the way. We engage our audience through symposiums, through social media, through strategy sessions, and of course, the Life of Books. And so today we are here to talk about We Over Me. And I am joined by several lovely ladies who will introduce themselves. But first, we want to shout out our founder, Nakia Wright. She is not with us today, but she is cheering us in the airwaves. And so we salute her today. And we are excited for what her leadership will birth through A Woman's Voice this year. So we are going to get started. And how fitting is it that we are connecting? Of course, A Woman's Voice Matters champions women and the power and impact of women all year long, but it's Women's History, Herstory Month, and so we're excited to be sharing together. And as we get started, please introduce yourselves. Mika, we'll start with you, and just share what A Woman's Voice means to you.
Thank you for that, Marcy. I am Mika Woods, as Marcy mentioned. For me, women's history is about resilience and flourishing and living in your truth.
Hi, I am Hadassah DeBush, and I feel like a woman's voice, is beyond impactful. It's purposeful, it's powerful, it shapes our today and our tomorrow. It's necessary for every aspect of our lives, and that's what I think is so powerful about a woman's voice.
I love that. Freddie?
Hi, I am Freddie Brown. I'm sorry, ladies, guys, well, everyone. A woman's voice to me means being powerful, being impactful, showing love, and having life. All those to me speak a woman's voice.
I love that. And to me, a woman's voice is irreplaceable
Good.
and indispensable. Things don't happen without it.
Exactly.
And so, again, thank you, ladies,
you.
for hosting a Life of Books this month. So, we're going to jump right in. And we are talking about We Over Me. This was our book for the month. And it is by Khadeen and Devalue Ellis, The Counterintuitive Approach to Getting Everything You Want from Your Relationship. And so we're going to jump into this conversation. We're all in relationships, have had great relationships, relationships that suck. So let's just jump in and talk about What was your overall feeling of the book? So let's just start by sharing just overall thoughts of the books. Freddie, we'll start with you.
So my overall thought of the book is just to connect with your mate. Whether you're dating with that person, whether you're married with them, it all goes back to connection and communication. I think if you don't have those two things, you don't have anything. And I think those definitely are the foundation because you need to connect with someone, but you need to also be able to communicate in every aspect of of the relationship. So those two things work for me.
I think this book touches so much on all of the fundamental things that go into a relationship. And they definitely talked about it all. Just when I thought, like, oh my goodness,
They talked about everything. Everything.
could they leave anything out? No, they literally talked about every single thing. And I think it's so important, like the transparency, their authenticity. And for me personally, I think I'm the only one that's not married on this panel here, but as someone who, aspires marriage and things like that, it's so easy to get so inundated by what social media or what people are saying and letting that shape, the narrative and your perspective on marriage in total, especially now it's become so popular for people to say that marriage is no longer a goal or for people or how it's no longer something people aspire to because they feel like the pond of men has been polluted or whatever. But I love how they talk about the ins and outs and the realness about being in a committed and serious relationship and wanting to a healthy relationship. So I can go on and on, but we'll talk more about the book. So I'm gonna pass it to Vika.
I love something that you said. You talked about their transparency.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that because it allows you to sort of make your own decisions.
Very true.
You can filter
Very
it through
true.
your own lens,
Absolutely.
like
Yeah,
what
yeah,
your
yeah.
values
Absolutely.
are in a relationship. So,
Yeah.
but yes, we'll continue to talk. Mika, what did you think about the book?
Well, as someone that's been married for 24 years, I thank you. Thank you. I thumbed through the book and felt that it was a very whimsical approach to a very serious topic. And so the way that they lay their story out, it made it relatable. Even at this point in my own marriage, there were some things that I was like, oh, yeah, I do that, but I need to do this. So it was like a reality check as well, because there's some things that you take for granted that you really don't realize until you see someone else sharing their story, which is why I think what we're doing here is very important, because there's always a way for us to share our message and have an impact. As Freddie said, that women are very impactful. So I think that we're reading Khadeen's parts looking for validation and reading Deval's point of view looking for acceptance or understanding. And so having them write this book together and the way that it broke it down instead of as a we, right? You have a we, and then you have a me and a she, or he and me. And so it was very good that it started with them, but then you could hear from each solo voice because it helps you just put things in perspective. So that's what I felt, that it was a lighthearted write or lighthearted read on a very serious topic. So it made the content relatable.
I love that. So true. I agree with everything that has been shared. So I just noted that it is refreshing to see a transparent account of love in this day and age. Like,
Yes.
that's initially what I thought. I was like, oh, it's very refreshing because we see horror stories, negativity tends to rise to the top of our social feeds and is played repeatedly. And so them sharing this was very refreshing. I also noted that I laughed, I had a tear, I felt many emotions as I reflected reflected on my marriage. I've been married for 13 years, and just hearing some of those things that were so relatable. And it's like, some of it was a mirror. It's just like, oh, well, yeah, I should do that, or should not do that, or and then I said I appreciated their emphasis throughout the book that this is what love looks like for them.
For them and for
They
real.
they shared that repeatedly. Yes.
For them and for real. And for real.
And for real.
Because as you mentioned, and as Hadassah said, looking at social media, especially for younger couples. So for me, it was refreshing seeing such a young couple being rooted in what real marriage looks like, and also defining the difference between a wedding, which everyone loves.
Yeah.
I didn't have a wedding. I have a marriage, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we
same.
yeah. So, and I knew even at 25 what I wanted. So, with social media, you see a lot of people getting away from that. And I'm not knocking it because I do believe that marriage is a lot of hard work, but it works, right? But it's hard work. And so both people have to be willing to put in the effort. And with social media, we have this instant gratification. We're looking at other people's situations and we're saying, I want that. I want those dates. I want that Valentine's gift. I want that wedding.
Ring.
I want that ring.
Yes.
But they don't know what it costs to get
It does. They don't know the
if it's
price that we
real,
pay,
or
for that,
if it's
or
real.
if it's real,
Or if
because
it's
a lot of it is fabricated. And so when they dive in and they talk about, shifting roles when the finances change, that's real because everyone talks about what they want with their dream marriages, but
They mentioned that in the book about how you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. Like, I could put anything in front of you and it'll be believable. Like, I can filter anything. Like, that's the day and time that we live in. Like, the wedding boards, they're so beautiful on Instagram, like all of these beautiful venues or whatever. But like Mika and what, like you're all saying, like, with the actual effort that it takes into being in a committed relationship or a marriage, it goes far beyond the wedding dress. It goes far beyond planning the venue and things like that. Like, take the pressures off. Like,
Take the pressures off.
and I feel like this book really captures how important it is to take those pressures off. Like, no, plan the marriage. That's
Plan
what
the
you're.
marriage.
That's
Plan
the
the marriage.
ultimate goal. Not the wedding.
a wedding costs a lot of money, but a marriage costs you a lot of things that you do not realize.
Far
Are you
more
willing
than
to
money.
pay the price?
Far more than money. Far more than money. I think that's so good, Mika.
Yes.
I could only imagine.
Yeah. Well, look.
that was good. I like
That was so good. Yes, Mika, you are on it. The last thing I made a note about, and you all have talked about it, I said this book gave credibility to their highlight reel. Because they talked about social media, the impact of social media. They talked about how they fell in love before social media, right? So they didn't have the immediate pressure of social media.
Yes.
But they are now seeing, as they are growing in their success, the impact of social media. And so
Yes.
this is so good. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. So we're going to, here's a question. Let's talk about our favorite chapter.
Oh,
And if
yay.
there is a point that we want to read. So who wants to go first? You want to go first, Hadassah?
I can
Okay.
go first. Oh my God. Okay, so I have two.
Oh, I love it.
Oh my God. I almost feel like I want to start with just the very beginning where it was really just a sentence that caught me. And it was literally the first, it's in the introduction because I feel like it's the entire purpose of the book. Like if I was to put this book and summarize it into one word, it would be choices. Like they're made a
I love
choice.
it. Yes.
And I think all of us know, that love is a choice. Marriage is a choice. Everything starts with a choice. And they started this book by saying, like, if you're looking for the how-tos, this isn't that book.
It is.
And literally in the introduction, they're like this, and at the very bottom it says this book is about choices. Specifically, my apologies. Specifically the individual choices that led to a blessed union we are very proud of. And I thought to myself, wow. To me, it caught my attention in that in this day and age and in this time that there are still people who are dedicated and committed to wanting to be an example, but more than just an example. Like I want to build something that works for us and shape our own reality. And just to see two young people, like Mika mentioned, wanting to choose love and covenant in a public way. And writing it in this book is what caught my attention the first, just in the first page. So that sentence caught me. But as far as the chapter, I'll give it to somebody else because I have to find my page.
Well, look, while you find your page, I want to say something about the first page that caught my attention. And again, it's in the introduction, and we as people don't owe each other anything other than the space to exist freely. And I felt like those were the ground rules. Like, no one is entitled to anything outside of us existing freely. And, I go off on a tangent all the time how entitlement is running rampant at work with people, the audacity of people. But those were the ground rules, I thought. And it's right above what you shared about choices, Hadassah. It's just, that's all we owe each other is the freedom to exist. So, but yes, go with your chapter.
Okay, so it's in chapter 6 on page 136. I love Khadeen's and Devalue hot take. That's my favorite part. But this is Khadeen's hot take, and I can read it. It's pretty long, but I feel like it's worth reading. Where it says completing yourself. Before you get into any relationship, you have to be real and ask yourself, am I looking for someone to complete me? For most modern women, we know what we bring to the table. We're confident about our education, our jobs, our businesses, and our possessions, but there is still a part of us that feels like we won't be complete until we find someone else to make us happy. Ladies, if you are looking for someone else to make you whole, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
And there's more in this part, but I'll stop right there. And I love that so much in that you really cannot expect you out of someone else. First, I feel like it's unfair.
Oh, it's so good.
I was privileged to attend someone's wedding some years ago, and they asked me to sing a song for them. And the song said something about, you're the only half that makes me whole. And they're like, can you change the words to that song to say you're the whole that makes me whole? Because they're like, I don't feel like we're not coming into this marriage being half of anything, because once that person walks away, then I'm just left at 50%, when the reality is I should have came 100% in the beginning. It's not to say that you have to have everything figured out when you're married. I don't believe that, or in a relationship. I don't think that. I think you build and you grow together, but to expect that someone else putting all that responsibility and that I guess that commitment on someone else to complete you and to identify you is a lot of pressure. And I just feel like it's not fair to just say that. Join the relationship knowing that you're going to offer your total and best self. Like, that is your 100%.
Yeah,
and then
love
from
that.
there, you build upon it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Freddie, what was your favorite part of the book?
So my favorite chapter is doing the work. I think there's a chapter in there that they talked about doing the work.
Yes.
And a part of doing the work is also being a service to your partner. So, taking the good with the bad, waking up every day saying, oh my goodness, I got all these things on my plate, but what can I help my husband with?
Yeah.
Or my partner with? Because then that way, we can kind of share in the day. So that
Share in the day. I love that.
share in the day so that when he gets back home, we can continue to love on each other. You know what
That's
I mean?
good.
I feel like life is, it gets better when you help each other. It also is give and take up in the marriage. And, you help each other, you grow together, and you love together. I think for me, the doing the work is always going to be my number one thing, because you have to continually do the work.
Love that.
I love that you say it's a continual thing, right? So to me, for success in marriage, there is no marker that you hit and it's just like, oh, check. I'm successful in my marriage. No, because marriage is about ebbs and flows. Life is lifing, and the ups, the downs, the peaks, all the things. I love to say it. Yeah.
You're busy.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have to learn how to be busy, but still be married and
Yeah.
in love.
And prioritize. Prioritize love, right? Prioritize.
It's a full-time job.
It's a full-time
You said
job.
it's a full-time job, and in order for marriage to work, you have to make sure that you are continuously doing things so that you can keep your job.
So you can keep. I want to keep my job
Because on
as
your
a married
regular
woman.
job,
Yes, Mika.
you go in annually for promotions and raises and evaluations.
Come on, talk about it,
And
Mika.
if you don't meet the mark, you're
Come
not
on now.
doing your
You
job
better talk
properly.
about. I want to stay employed. If my husband is watching, I want a raise, husband.
I want to
You know, I would like some extra, a bonus. I'd like a bonus.
Compensation. What does my package look like?
What is this compensation package? Mika, yes.
Extra vacation, all of that.
Where's my extra vacation? I want a vacation, a girl's cation, and all the things.
wifey vacation.
Yes.
Okay.
All that.
So thank you for that, Freddie, because that was a word.
Okay.
Thank you
I love
for
that. That's so good to me. Okay. Well, Mika, do you have a favorite chapter or favorite part?
I do. My favorite chapter was chapter 2, and it's titled Stuck Between Your Love and a Hard Place.
Come on now.
Ooh, come on.
That,
You got some goods down there.
yes, honey. That chapter stuck out for me because, as I mentioned, being married as long as I have and being transparent and standing in my truth, every day has not been a great day. Every day is not going to be a good day. But because I made a choice, you have to figure out how to stay rooted, where you planted those roots so that you can grow.
To stay rooted.
So the
I like
piece that I wanted to share says, if you want to see what your relationship is really made of, you have to be willing to get into the trenches and learn how to get through the hard places together. Petty arguments, which I am guilty of, and I'll apologize if my husband's watching.
I love that. On the spot because you want to keep her job. So
In this public forum.
Listen, through the airwaves and the interwebs.
Yes, petty arguments about missing a birthday or leaving a toilet seat up become really minor when you have to face the reality of losing a loved one, being downsized from a job or losing a business, and slamming up against an unexpected financial emergency.
Yes.
The reason that stood out for me is
on.
because I know that women always say, I want him to do this and I want him to do that. And when I say women, I mean me. Right? I'm not going to
Mika,
lie.
I love you for that.
But there has also been times when my husband's business has not done the numbers that it should, right? And so I'm like, oh, that means I have to take my paycheck and pay bills? Well, yeah, because he does it for you. And it's a team effort. Right?
Absolutely.
So for me, all of these things that they mentioned, I lost my father during the marriage. And my father died in California. His body had to be shipped back here. My husband was the person that got on that plane and went to take care of all of that for me.
See the cost.
The cost. I worked for Disney. My job was downsized and then just erased with no warning. And he said to me, it's okay, because that was like a death. I had been with the company for 15 years.
good,
And he
Mika.
said, take all the time you need. That was 10 years ago.
Are you still taking your time, Mika?
Still taking my time. But he gave me the grace.
I love that. That's it.
Come on.
So I always remind
grace.
myself of that when there are things
good.
that he does that, I'm like, it was our wedding anniversary and you have nothing planned. And he's like, you're the planner. I'm like, but sometimes I would like to be planned for. But then I remind myself that he's planning for me every day.
Yes, that's
When
so
I'm
good, Mika.
Flicking on lights and open up the fridge and turn it on my car. He's planning for us consistently. So that's why this chapter was my favorite and stuck, because you have to figure out where your comfort zone is in between loving hard and the hard times.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good, Mika.
That's so
Thank
good.
you for
that's
sharing that. Ooh.
That's good.
So my favorite chapter of the book was chapter 4,
All right, Marcy.
putting friendship at the core. And so I'm going to read something from this chapter on page 102. And this was or is Devalue's account. He said, life can be heavy at times. Having a friend that you can smile with through the ups and downs of life is what it's all about. And this was the part that was so good. I've learned that an unconditional friendship has no ceiling. And when he said that, I was just like, that is so good. How there are no boundaries to unconditional friendship, right? And people who have unconditional friendships can be friends forever, regardless of what happens. They can disagree, they can do stuff accidentally to hurt each other. But if you have a strong friendship, you'll come back.
Yeah.
And I'll just drop down. The only way you can he said, I want a friend who's going to work with me to create an experience in life together that works for the both of us. And I just thought that, oh man, that's amazing. And he said, the only way you can do that is if you start with an unconditional friendship that will last. He said, things will happen. And if you don't have the ability to give grace, be forgiving, and be understanding, you're never going to make it through. And I wrote in the margins here in the book, that's marriage or any other relationship.
Yes, it is.
Any relationship.
Any relationship. And something else that I noted here is that in both of their sections in the putting friendship at the core, they both talked about this. They acknowledged what had to be unlearned for their relationship to be successful. Both of them come from parents who are still married. So long time marriages, but they still did not see their model in their parents. And I appreciate that they're willing to unlearn what will not serve them in their marriage. This chapter, they both shared their deep willingness to always choose one another.
I like that.
And they just always, in this chapter, they talked about while they witnessed a number of marriages that looked successful on the outside, they didn't find their core foundation of what they wanted their marriage to be. And so they created that for
Be
themselves.
your own marriage
Yeah,
goals.
be your own marriage goals. And they talked about that in the
You have
book.
to do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so anything more to share? Any other favorite parts? I did have two favorite parts. I had one more favorite part, and it's on page 136. Let me get that. And it's a one little line there that was so good.
Oh, another hot take.
Yes, it was one of these hot takes, right? The hot takes are amazing. And this one basically talked about love each other into your own dreams. And so
That's really good.
this is Khadeen's hot take, and she shared this. She said, nobody's expecting you to show up perfectly whole, and I think you talked about this, Hadassah, perfectly whole in a relationship. But make sure that you are good for and with yourself first. Be good with understanding your strengths and your weaknesses. Be good with knowing who you are individually and then collectively in a group. Knowing who you are and being confident that you complete yourself will go a long way in being kind to your partner. I mean, and so she just talked about how knowing who you are, and I wrote in the margin, again, self-awareness is a gift.
Yeah.
It is a gift. You need to know who you are so that you know what your limits are with your partner.
That's really good.
So, all right. Well, look, let's move on. So, who would like to share their greatest one-liner in the book? All right. Well, Mika, if you want to start there? Because I got a couple. So let's start with you.
Yes. So mine was in chapter 10, and that chapter is titled "The Kids Ain't First." The reason that I picked this line is because my kids are grown now. Well, we have one that's still in the house, and this is a lesson that I wish that I had read this when I was raising my kids, because we're very guilty of putting our children first and not saving space for each other or ourselves. And that's always been a tension point for us, not finding time. So this line says, you might be surprised to hear us say this, but we do not put our kids first. they're cute and all. But the biggest lesson we learned in the first 5 years of our marriage, and especially with our oldest son, Jackson, is that when we put all the focus on him, we created a toxic environment where it was very hard for us to figure out how to balance being good partners and good parents.
So good.
So I just wanted to pull that out and speak to any of the young parents that are out there that are trying to make a family unit work. That line resonated with me because that is key. That is key because we, like you said, when you're trying to unlearn things from parents or relationships that were modeled before yours, you look at what they did and you said, well, I turned out okay, so I'll do that. And we have to find our own place, but we're also trying to find our own place with competing with social media.
Yes.
Looking at someone else's fake grass, that they put down. And it's like, no, sweetie, that's sod. You have to plant the seeds. You have to turn the dirt. You have to water it in order for it to grow. And part of in doing that is making sure that we're saving space for each other and ourselves in order to be good parents, in order to be good and be there for the kids. We have to be there for each other. And again, standing in my truth and having a transparent moment, that's not something that was taught to me. And so I didn't know. My parents were divorced, and I saw my father 3 times a year. So in my mind, I'm thinking that I want to marry the best man that I can to be the best dad that he can be for my kids. And my husband is amazing with the kids. But in that time, the 30 years we've been together, we're like, hey, what about us?
Yeah.
And now we're knocking on 50 going, who are you again? Nice to meet you. I'm Mika, and you are?
Good.
You know
That's
these
very
kids.
real, Mika.
You know these kids. But who are you? Who is this man? Because the 18-year-old boy that I met in college is not who you are.
Yeah.
And let me introduce you to me while we're here at this new space.
Yeah,
So I wanted to
that.
pull that line so that if there are any young parents that are reading this book, read that chapter and hold on to it.
Yeah,
A very good friend of mine, she and her husband have a line that they always say, forget those kids. And when I first heard them say that, I was like, ooh, they are so rude. But I get it, watching them and how much fun they have together and watching how they make intentional time for each other. So that's why that was my line, my one-liner.
I love it. Well, Freddie, what was your favorite
So
one-line?
I have actually there are 3 things.
Yes, give us all the good.
All 3 things. So these three things are going to be in the beginning of the book. So they talk about so it says don't compare yourself to other couples.
Yes.
Learn how to function as a team, and keep talking about sex.
Okay, that was good.
Okay, you have to keep talking about sex. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say.
Any more to share on that, Freddie?
No, I'm good.
While being a team.
That's right. A team. That's
Come
right.
on.
A unit.
Listen.
Togetherness.
Together. Talk together about sex. That's the key.
I love it.
I don't know how to pull myself back.
It's okay.
Adasa, do you have a
There we
point?
go.
Would you like to share a point?
So, Paige. No, just kidding. No, because I think it's also very important, and it's true. And shouldn't have to.
It's everything.
And I like that they talk about it, like just being honest. I think there's a section where she completely dedicated to like trying to keep that fire going, which is important, and shouldn't be overlooked in a marriage, in my opinion. But no, that's very good. But page 145, and I know you said a one-liner, but Marcia, it is extremely hard to just pick one. Because I literally highlighted the entire paragraph, but page 143. First, I want to acknowledge the fact that they both had dreams. And I think that is so important. Like they had goals prior to them getting to, involved in the relationship, and then that goal was continue to fuel them and motivate them. And I think that's so important, especially, whether being young or at whatever phase in life, it's just knowing what you want to do in life is like there's something about that.
And then someone there to help you
Yeah,
get that going.
to continue to fuel that.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah,
We're
exactly.
rooting for each other, cheering each other on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it can be great if I'm your cheerleader, But if I look down the line or years and I'm still cheering for you,
Yeah.
who cheers for me?
Yeah.
If we're partners, if we're
There needs
in
to be
this
a balance.
together,
Yeah.
if we're a team, sometimes I want to be the coach.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like if we're co-owners of this team, I could be the star player, the cheerleader, and the coach, as should you.
Yeah.
I don't always want to be the cheerleader.
That's right.
So sometimes let me get on the field and show my talents,
That's right.
and you cheer for me, you root for
right.
me.
I like
So
that.
yeah.
Well, look, when you, as you go into that, Hadassah, remember Khadeen also shared in the book that her mother had great ambition, and her dad, it was just enough for him to, he was proud to provide for his family. And again, they were sort of even imbalanced in their goals
Yes.
and their desire. And so, sometimes that drive can pull you one way or the other, or to seek affirmation for your drive.
You're not
outside.
equally yoked.
So that is also something that they talked about. But yes.
Yeah, I know, but now you opened another can of worms.
I'm
which is
sorry,
good.
yes,
No,
yes,
but
yes,
it's
no,
a
no,
good
no.
one. Like,
Yeah, it's good.
coming from family from the West Indies, first, which is why I really identify with Khadeen, being that my family's from Haiti, so we're sisters, but in some ways, or cousins. But the point is, how watching her parents and her family and his family as well, like. There was this, her father wanted to was good with just being the protector and the provider, and mom has dreams and whatever, but having kids, not enough time to explore those. But then as a child, you can say, well, I can either become that and model this same example, or I can turn it into something that's going to work out for me. And I think that's what they both did, that channeled the what was being displayed in front of them and turning it around into something positive or something useful that they can now pass to their children.
Yes.
So as people always saying, like breaking the generational curse, I don't believe it was curse. I think sometimes it was just a lack of access sometimes, especially for families from coming from the West Indies when you're immigrants. A lot of time it is just about not having enough access and exposure to certain things.
Exposure. Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
So I really do appreciate them, like wanting to, like, having a goal and being ambitious about it, and then fueling each other towards that goal. But page 143 reinforces that about letting your passions fuel and motivate each other, and that there is no competition. When I win, we both win, right? And he says, or they say, I don't think it's possible to have happiness in a relationship if one person is dependent on watching the other person become great. What if your partner doesn't succeed? Now what does your partner or spouse have for themselves? It was the duality of chasing my own greatness while also pushing Khadeen to be great that helped us succeed together. And then he says, watching her chase her own greatness while she was pushing me to be great is what really makes us click as a couple. Nothing is more important to either one of us than watching the other one be happy and feel fulfilled with what they're doing in life. And look, you don't need to be as driven as we are in order to be fulfilled in your relationship, but working toward a common goal or two complementary goals is a fantastic way to enhance your bond and learn how to function as a team.
I love that. I love that.
That
The
team
function.
thing.
Yes.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I love how they
talked about that earlier,
The
Freddie.
team, honey.
The team
The
and
team.
talking about sex with
I'm
together and all
the
things.
togetherness.
Yes, the togetherness.
Togetherness. I'm sorry.
Is
that
there
a song?
on
No,
your heart?
that's not a song right now. Keep going.
Is that an actual song though?
It is. It is.
Okay.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
I'm intrigued.
Would you like to share your song?
No, I
Do
don't.
you sing to your husband?
Oh, I do.
Oh.
Oh, I do. Oh,
How excited she got. Why, yes,
listen.
yes, ma'am, I do.
Tell. Share
Listen.
your story.
Listen. So my husband and I. So I met my husband on the dance floor.
Okay.
So he was kind of like, oh, so you can dance? I'm like, brother, are you ready for me to dance? You know what I'm saying? And so we met on the dance floor. It was a great time that we had, and we just been together since. But I sing to him often, all the time, and we sing together in the car because everything is together, right? Because we got to go back to that. Keep talking about the sex together.
Okay.
There we are.
All right. Well, then there's that. You heard it here first.
Exclusive.
Actually, that's the exclusive on the life of me.
On the life.
Right.
But
That's
listen,
it.
it's actually in
Continue
the
to
book.
make music.
book.
Continue to make music
That's
together.
right. That's
Come on,
right.
come on, come on. I love
Harmony.
it. I love it.
Yes.
In harmony, yes.
harmony.
All the things. I
All
love
those
it.
lovely things.
All the
This is amazing.
important things for recipes for a successful marriage. Like it's important.
Absolutely.
It
It is important. And the thing, and I'll go back to, like some of the themes, communication in the book, that was a resounding thing. Like
that's communication.
how you communicate. And look, there is no one way to communicate. You need to communicate how your partner needs to
Receive it.
hear and receive,
Yeah.
and that's what's important.
Yeah,
There's no one way of dialogue, and they talked about it in the book. It was rarely what was being said. It was more about how it was being said.
It's like they had to change the strategy at each life moment. Yes. So like, okay, now we got to rearrange this game plan because something unexpected happened. Okay, I need to communicate this way because he's now this person or whatever. Okay, the NFL thing didn't work out. Okay, I need to be like this, like just learning how to flow, like you said, like being able to just adjust. And
Look.
I felt like that was a common theme in the book too.
When conditions change, adjust. And sometimes when conditions change in our lives, we don't give grace for adjustment. So it's like we keep trying to do the same thing the way we've always done it. And, I love in the book that they talked about they didn't have anything negative to say about the models they saw. They just understood that that's not what I want for my marriage.
Yeah.
And how they talked about, well, you talked about it. Well, when he got cut from the NFL, or when he was addicted to prescription drugs, or the things you can't plan for
Right. Right.
in a marriage.
Yeah.
The emotions, there are emotions that you cannot plan for. There are things in a marriage that you don't know how your spouse is going to handle losing a parent.
That's right.
Your husband, he couldn't read that in a book, Mika.
Right.
He couldn't because also our story was unique because his father died when he was 10.
Okay.
So for me going through that, he's like, I don't know what to do because it was just me, my mom, and my sisters.
Right. Right.
But like you said, losing your job or just so many things that happen. So you have these situational changes, but then also we changed because we've been together since we were 18.
Yeah.
And, now we're both 49.
Yeah.
So we're not the same people.
Yeah.
We just have the same name.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
Come on, Mika.
So
that.
you have to be willing to adapt and regroup and go back to the drawing board and understand, like you said, not only is each situation unique, but our marriage is unique.
Yeah.
I don't think that there is another couple out there that's like us.
Yeah.
Because all of the different dynamics
Of course.
that make us who we are.
Yes.
I've not seen anything like it. There's something similar,
Sure.
maybe,
Sure.
but it's nothing like it, or the way that we adapt to the different changes that have occurred in our life the past 30 years. So,
Yeah. So something you said, Mika, you were talking about like there's nothing like yours. And in the book, I'll share my quote, my favorite one-liner in a moment. But in the book, Devalue also talked about specifically, don't try to emulate. Don't try to, okay, I'm going to get a striped blue shirt, silver Chanel boots, blue pants, just like Mika, and I'm going to expect the same outcome. Or I'm going to have my sequin on like Hadassah, and I'm going to expect, or my blue blazer, like if I do exactly what Freddie does, I can have the same. No. Listen.
you can share
even
the
if I like
recipe,
this
but
blue
the sauce
blazer,
won't taste the same.
That's it. The results won't taste the same. And listen, you shouldn't even desire that. There's not one thing that I see out there that I want exactly.
No.
You got to put your own flavor into it. Make your marriage, your relationship your own, right?
You have to.
All right, so my My
Yes,
favorite
come
one
on,
line.
give
I
it.
had a couple of
Come
them.
on, come on, tell us now.
spoiled
Tell us
this
now.
because I spoiled it because in the beginning, in the overview, I shared my favorite one liner. I'm so
It's
glad I
okay.
put two down here.
It's all right.
All right, so on page 265, and it's actually the last chapter of the book. So my favorite one liners basically came from the introduction and then the last chapter of the book. And so it's on page 265, and it's simple. And it says, not everyone deserves access to your wildest dreams. So protect yourself and guard your heart. And this is Khadeen talking. And she's just talking to people who desire a relationship, people who are in a relationship. Everyone doesn't deserve a front row seat to your love. So guard that. And I think that with social media, sometimes I look at social media and I'm just like, man, they just really oversharing. Like that's
Yeah,
just way too much.
they do overshare. They overshare.
Or, wow, that's an interesting perspective. But again, it's the highlight reel. But everyone doesn't deserve, they just don't deserve a front row seat to every area of your life. And I'm not saying hide the bad. I'm just simply saying don't share in atmospheres that can't help you.
Yeah.
Why share on social media? Not a person on social media gonna
help
speak
you.
into my marriage
to-
and tell me to
That
yes
part.
or no or otherwise,
I
right?
believe
And it's
that
infecting
100%.
the good thing you have going on by them sharing a perspective that's irrelevant and doesn't quite
Yes.
fit the mold. Like none of that is necessary in my opinion.
Yes. All right. So, okay. Well, do we have any questions out there from social media world? Any comments to share? All right. Well, we'll keep moving. But look, post it in the chat if you want us to, hear your comment. All right. So, advice, ladies. Let's talk advice. What would you give? What advice would you give based on your proven experience in a relationship? So who'd like to go? Freddie, let's start with you. What advice would you give?
On someone that wants to start a relationship, let me
Or
see.
in a
Or
relationship? What love advice would you like to give? Or relationship advice?
Date your mate. That means date them. Like get to know who they are. Get to know their twerks, the things that they like, that they don't like, their family, their friends. See them when they're at work, when they're not at work. Like really get to know them. And then before you get to the love stage and all of that, really understand if this person that you've met and you have seen all these things, do you want to go that next step with? Is it someone you just want to play around with, or you really want to go that next step with? And if that is it, you guys have that conversation together.
Yeah.
And you make it a union that you're going to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. So we're here dating, and now we're going to this step. But don't leave each other behind. But you want to take it together.
I love that.
You know what I mean?
I love that. So something you're saying, and it brought me back to a point you made, Mika, about reintroducing yourself, and so certain situations. So Khadeen talked about it in the book, how after she had children, her body was different, and she said it just like this. She talked about how I had a baby in me, a baby on me, and she just didn't want to be touched. She felt like she was out of touch. Like I'm over you touching me. And her husband still had a need. And so she talked about how she came up with the red light, green light, yellow light. Like this is what is okay as I am expecting our third or fourth child. But they communicated about the conditions changed, and she communicated, look, this is what will work for me in this moment. And he even talked about it when he shared his counter opinion. He said, because I don't experience what she's going through in her body, it was hard for him to empathize for her initially. And then once he saw what happened and what she went through and how she almost died after the first child, he gave grace and said, I will do whatever my wife needs me to do for her to remain in this with me. I mean, she almost lost her life. So, but
Perspective.
Yeah, but it gave him a different perspective. It gave him a different perspective. I love that. So, Hadassah, what advice would you like to give?
Yeah, I think I could give advice to anyone, in a romantic relationship or single. Don't be so timeline driven.
Oh, I love that.
I think, like, especially when you're in a relationship, I feel like you skip a lot of the important factors to consider into being in a healthy, stable, or successful and happy
Love it.
relationship.
It's so
Things you
good.
should ask yourself: do I know him? Do I know her?
so that's what I was saying.
Or what
Deep.
do I
Yeah,
know
gotta get
about
for a
them?
long
Like, what do
time,
I really know? Okay, great. He drives a nice car, whatever. Is that enough? He makes good money. Is that enough?
I love
Does he have a dream? Is it worth me following?
Come on now, is the dream worth following? Come
Do
on,
I wanna
Hadassah,
follow
you better
that?
say that.
And then I do have a choice. Do I choose this life? And can we build something together? Like,
This
what
is
can
good,
I
honey.
bring together? Like, what can I bring? What can he bring to my life? What can he or she for those, for the males, what can he or she add to my life?
I love it.
Can he manage his finances? Can I manage mine? Like, those are things you have to consider, especially when you wanted to merge lives together and things like that. Like,
It's a situation merging these lives,
Yes,
honey. I'm
honey,
telling
yes,
you.
it is.
And that's my husband.
and I feel like
And mine.
and I feel like those questions are very important to ask because even before you say I do, before you say yes to the ring, because it's just my opinion that those things just don't change after marriage or whatever. Sometimes
No.
it can be very much embedded in that person. Like, this is just who I am, and it's like, can you stick with this or whatnot? Like, some people do have a right not to change, and you have to consider who you're with.
Yeah.
So I think those are important things to address.
I love that. And it's funny you say that because, and sometimes we take the negative part of, well, this is just who they are.
Yeah.
We have to think about it. We are raised, we have to take into account the models that we saw growing up, or what they even talked about what you watch on TV as you consider a model for a relationship and things like that. And so
That's good.
you have to be
that's
committed to unlearning.
Yeah.
I mean, because our parents, when we're in their homes and they're feeding us and they're clothing us and taking care of us and showing us what love, when they're teaching us what love looks like or what it does, until you come into your own and have exposure to things outside of that, you may never know what the opportunities are outside of that. Like, oh, I didn't know my relationship could look like this.
Right.
Because this is what I know love to be.
Right.
And you have to be willing to, again, it's the unlearning
Everyone
for me.
loves differently.
Everyone loves
Everyone
differently.
loves differently.
Everyone does love
and
different.
also, people can only love at their level of understanding.
Absolutely, Mika.
So if you grew up in a house and you were taught that love is making sure that I'm paying your bills and that I'm taking care of you,
This
in
is
the
it,
physical
Mika.
sense,
Wait a minute, I-
you feel loved. You feel loved. But on the other hand, you could have someone that grew up and their economic situation wasn't as desirable, but every single day someone said to them, "You are important.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here." That's how they feel loved.
Right, right,
So
right.
when you're bringing two individuals together to create this new thing, you have to figure out, what do you understand love to be?
Yes.
And then
so
together
well
we'll
said.
take our definitions
That's
and
it.
then create our own version of that.
Create
Then
our
it
own
goes
version.
back to the love languages.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah, yes,
Correct.
yes.
Correct.
I love
Correct.
that. I love
Correct.
that.
And love to be. I need to
Yeah.
write that. That was
Yeah.
a very offeringable statement.
Yeah.
I love
Yes,
that.
Mika, I owe you something on that.
I like that, Mika.
You're talking
So,
good. And
yes.
so that's what people need to know.
Yeah.
And
The
I love
good and
what you
bad.
said, the good and the bad. But look, I love what you said, Hadassah, that I have a choice in this.
Yeah.
I
Do
get
I-
to choose.
Yeah.
I get to
Yeah.
choose.
She has
I
a
get to
choice
choose.
while she's single.
That's right.
Well, then there's
That's
that.
right. That's right.
In her singleness.
Bible even says that blessed is the man that you choose. Like,
That's
so
it.
even
Come
when
on, bring the
you're,
Bible. That's
you're
it.
getting
Yeah.
for women or whatever. No, there is a blessing in your
here.
choices.
There's a
Right.
blessing in your
So
choices.
you
Come
do,
on,
in a
Hadassah.
sense, you do have
better
a
say
choice.
that.
God, I know you hear.
You better say that.
Come on here.
All right, this is so good. All right, well, listen.
I love it.
This has been a wonderful.
Nice.
Oh, you didn't show your advice.
Oh, you know what?
Mika, you better
Because
give me
it's
your
Mika.
advice.
because you
if
give
it's one
excellent
thing-
advice
Well,
already.
one thing I'm
Mika,
gonna do, I'm gonna speak
what-
up for myself.
The last piece that you
my
shared.
girls and in my marriage.
I know that's right. Well, look, my apologies, Mika, because the last thing you said was such great advice.
I know. I was like,
okay,
yeah.
maybe that was her point, but yes, Mika,
We
please share your
we aren't finished.
I love her.
It's really short. It's really short. I just wanted to say that we need to understand that you can't change people, but there is power in you changing how you react to that person and then hoping that they will then change the behaviors, right? So you can't change the person because, like you said, you chose them. That's who they are. But what they do is something separate.
Yeah, I love that.
And then my second point is just simple mathematics. If you're taking one whole person with another whole person and you're becoming two, there are only two people in that marriage.
Very good.
So don't go and tell your friends and your sister and your bestie and your mama
Come on,
and your
Mika.
daddy or his daddy about what's going on in your house. Because there's two people that are in that covenant of marriage, and in order for it to work, you have to keep all of that between you. Because there is a difference between sharing and venting and seeking counsel and advice. And there are paid professionals that are in that capacity. There are people of the cloth. There are people of the faith. There are people that are trained professionals to help you if you really wanted advice.
Yes.
But you should never just vent or talk bad about your partner or your spouse.
Absolutely.
Because you're going to continue to be with them. You're going to still love them.
Right.
But your friends, your homies, your sister, your bestie,
Side-eyeing.
They're gonna be.
it's going to
Giving the
create
side-eye and
exactly. And so if this is the person that you say that you love, right? And granted, I'll be transparent. Every day you do not love them, but if you are friends,
Yes,
you will
if you
always
like them.
like and respect them. And
Yeah.
if you like a person
Come on,
and you
Mika.
respect them, you won't throw dirt on their name.
That's
You'll
right.
continue to stand in that space until it comes back to where the butterflies and the roses are growing. But so that's all I
I
have.
love that advice. Well, look, I didn't share my advice, and I'm just going to piggyback on what you said, Mika. So my advice was, and it's from the book, choose each other when life gets hard.
Yes,
And-
please.
And it's to your point, don't choose outside your marriage. And that's not necessarily another person or a love interest, but don't choose your mother's opinion over your spouse's opinion. Don't choose your sister's opinion over your spouse's opinion. Choose each other when life gets hard. And then my last point was, don't allow others to project their idea of love and what a relationship should be on your marriage. Nobody tells me what my marriage should be. Nobody. Nobody outside of my marriage. My husband tells me all the time. He always getting on me about something. But the point is, outside of him, there is no opinion asserted in my marriage.
That's right.
And so don't allow others to project their love stories and love songs and all that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
I wish
All
I
right.
could take. I want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wish
Go,
I could
go, go.
take credit for this statement. It actually came from Lady Nakia, who made it, and it's just something that's always sticks with me. It's like she was talking about how not adding a third party or fourth party into your marriage or relationship, soliciting the voices of outside, like, or even when it comes to venting, because then you don't leave room for that other person to hear the actual heart behind, like, what it is that upset you. So if I'm going to Marcy and just like divulging everything about what upset me in this hot moment or whatever, then when it comes time to actually addressing the person for the offense or whatever it was, you don't really remember what it was or whatever, and they don't have an opportunity to fix what it was,
Yes.
the wrong that may have been brought. So I just something
That's
I
so
always
true. And
remember.
you utilize the tools that you have at hand.
Absolutely.
Like for me, I'll open my phone and go to that notes app.
Oh my
and I'm
God,
just
I love
like,
the notes.
Yes, Mika.
after it simmers down, you go back and you reread it, and it's like, okay, this was petty. Let me erase this. Or
Yes.
this was just me being emotional. And I always choose loyalty and commitment over emotions.
I love that,
I am
Mika.
very emotional.
That's
So
so
I
good.
know that about me. That's one of my weaknesses. So I know that I will go from 0 to 10 in 2. So in order for me not to do that to my person, I have to write it down and sit with my own thoughts and then reread it again. And if tomorrow I still feel very convicted about whatever that point was, then we need to have a conversation so that we can resolve it.
Yeah. I love that.
love that.
Use your tools. I love that. Well, ladies, this has been amazing. This has been so good. Such a great conversation, and this is a wonderful book. So, listen, if you don't have it, please go out and support this couple. They are doing positive things, and we are champions of love and marriage, and we support healthy relationships. And so please go out and support buy their book, listen to their podcast, support them. I mean, you can see Devalue on TV if you watch Sisters and Zatima and all of that. So,
yeah.
look, you can support them. But before we wrap up today, we want to share again, thank you for giving us your greatest treasure, and that's your time. And so before we go, we'd like to just share that we have several things coming up with A Woman's Voice Matters. You can please, we ask that you follow us on social media on Facebook and Instagram at awvmatters.com. Or AWV, our website is awvm.online, and then we are AWVM Matters on all social media. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube page. And in March, on March 25th, we have a strategy session with Diane Smith, and it's about the audacity of courage. And this is a time where you can get strategies to build your next, to get out of to work on your dreams and your goals. So we ask that you join us for that. It's $25. It is going to be a time, if you've ever heard Diane Smith teach, she is an ambassador for courage and confidence. She is a human resource expert and extraordinaire. So please join us on March 25th. Please follow our social media for the links to register. And then on April 22nd, A Woman's Voice Matters and Trauma to Triumph are hosting a brunch from the heart of a mother. And those details can also be found on our social media. The links are there. We would love for you to join us as stories, are shared from mothers and daughters' life, triumph, and everything in between. So we hope that you will join us. Please, again, follow us. Stay tuned. We have lots of great things happening, and we would love for you to be a part of everything that's happening with us. And so with that, we say thank you, and your voice matters, and we are excited to have you on this journey.
Yes.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.